Alright guys, today we are going to be practicing drawing things realistically. We are going to start off by practicing drawing a couple basic shapes. Today we are just going to do a cube and a sphere. When you're drawing realistically, it works best if you have a set of drawing pencils. Now, drawing pencils come in different varieties, and they have little numbers on them. So this one is a 5B. That means that it's dark. You'll have different H pencils. The H pencils are light. The graphite is packed really tightly together. So whenever you draw on your paper with an H pencil like this 2H, it's pretty light. Like the darkest I can draw is that. The H pencils usually erase really easily too, obviously as long as you draw with them regularly. If you press down really hard, it will be harder to erase it. Now, you will also have a set of B pencils. The bigger the number is with the B pencils, the darker the pencil is. So this is a 5B. This is one of the darker pencils. Even if I'm not pressing very hard, it's creating a pretty dark mark. If I press down hard with it though, it's almost black. And these ones are harder to erase. The reason they're darker is because the graphite is packed really loosely in them, so it goes onto the paper easier. Using a variety of drawing pencils will help you with your artwork, just because you can create more tones and values than you can with just a regular pencil. Your regular pencils are usually like an HB or a 2H, which is kind of in the middle of the range. These things over here, these are called tortillions. They're not tortillas or picadillies, as a student called them last semester. And these are really, they're just paper that have been like wound up really tightly and sharpened, and you use them for blending. I don't expect a lot of you to have tortillions at your disposal at your house. If you don't have any tortillions, you can just take a paper towel or a tissue or even some toilet paper and use it. You never want to blend with your finger because your finger has all these oils on it. If you try to blend with your finger, you're just going to get kind of weird smudges. Alrighty, we are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to fold my paper in half just so that way it's divided and I can easily show you a cube and a sphere. Now I'm only going to use 3 drawing pencils most likely. I'm going to use a 2B, which is kind of dark, a 5B, which is really dark, and a 2H, which is pretty light. Anytime you're drawing something, you want, if you're trying to draw realistically, you want the outside edges to be light. You don't want harsh lines. Harsh lines make things look flat, they make things look cartoony. So I'm going to start off by drawing my cube. If you need to use like a ruler or something with a flat edge to help you draw your cube, you can. Alright, so just like that. I'm going to go back, I'm going to erase away a few parts. Also notice whenever I'm drawing my cube, I'm not pressing down hard and I'm not doing it in one quick go. I'm doing little dashes. Alright, if you don't know how to draw a cube, you start off by drawing the square. Then we have a line going back, a line going back, a line going back. Now, these 3 lines need to be at the same angle. I use my pencil to help me with this a lot. So if this one's at this angle, this one needs to be at the same angle, and this one needs to be at the same angle. This one I actually have going up just a little bit too much, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. What people usually mess up on when they draw cubes is getting these angles right. Sometimes people will have like these 2 perfect, and then they'll have this one going up like this, or they'll have it almost straight, and that looks wonky. Alright, so then you need this back line to be parallel with this line. If you don't remember what parallel means from math class, it means the 2 lines would never intersect. Ever, ever, ever. If they went on forever, they would never touch each other. So the same distance should be from here to here as it is from here to here. Alright, so we have our cube drawn. And I drew it nice and lightly. Hopefully you guys can see it. I think you can see it. All right, so I drew my cube nice and lightly. Now we need to determine where our light source is coming from. I'm going to say that we have a nice little sun up here, so the light's coming at it like this. Now, because the sun is up in the sky, this top part of the box is going to be our lightest area. This side that we can't see would also be pretty light. This side is going to be our darkest, and this side is going to be like a nice middle range. So we're going to start with shading the top. I'm going to actually switch over to my 2B now. Again, if you just have a regular pencil, just press down a little bit harder now. I'm going to start by just shading the whole top in very lightly. Now, whenever I'm shading, I'm actually going in tiny little circles, like little ovals basically. It makes it so whenever I go to blend, it'll make it a little bit easier. Also notice I have my pencil on its side. I don't have it straight up and down. Just blending nicely. So I'll get a nice base down. Then I'm going to use my tortillon just to blend that all together so it looks nice and smooth. And again, I'm going in circles. If you're using a paper towel or your toilet paper, you also want to go in circles. Don't just go back and forth. Also notice I'm going in like the opposite direction that I colored in. So whenever I was like shading it, I was going this way. Whenever I was blending, I was going this way. All right. So that's that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come on over to our darkest side. For the darkest side, we're going to take our darkest pencil and we're going to color it all in nice and dark. Now again, if you don't have drawing pencils, yours won't get this dark, but you can still press down pretty hard with your pencil. I will say though, it might be harder to blend with just a regular pencil because it isn't as loose as these B pencils, but it'll still give you the basic idea. Alrighty. Filling it in. Once you're done completely coloring this in, just like we did on the top, we will take our tortillon and blend it all together. All right, so I'm going to take my tortillon and I'm going to start blending. Also, you probably noticed that I have like this blue book under my paper. The reason that's there is because this paper's this table is kind of bumpy. And if you try to color on a bumpy table, you'll get all those bumps in your picture. So the book is there just so that way it's nice and smooth. All right, now I'm going to go back to my 2H pencil. I'm just going to kind of sharpen up these lines a little bit. And then I can erase away any of the parts where I went out of my lines. I'm actually going to use this eraser. All right. Now I'm going to do this front side of the box. And again, this one is going to be in between this shade and this shade. I will again use my 2B pencil. I'll press down harder than I did up here. And I'm going to fill in this box. Now, once we're done with this, we are not done yet with our box. Right now, we've just added all of the shadows to it and all of the dark areas. Next, we need to go back in and we have to erase away some areas of highlighted parts. This is what really takes your artwork to the next level and makes it look more realistic. A lot of students are kind of afraid to draw darkly. Like, it's hard to get students to actually draw this dark. Usually I have to walk around the room and be like, okay, make it darker. I was the same way. Even in college, like in my first drawing class, I don't know how many times my instructor had to ask me to make things darker. Once you kind of get over that fear, like you don't realize you're scared of it, but that's really what it is. Once you get over that fear of like making things too dark, your art's just going to be so much better. Alrighty. So now I'm going to switch back over to my tortillon and blend all of that. You know, I'll be so sad if I'm not actually recording right now. I think I am. I hope I am. Okay, I am. I recorded something the other day. Well, I didn't record something the other day. I was trying to, and I realized halfway through it that I didn't even have the camera on, and I had to start all over. And I was a little bit bummed. I don't know. I don't know how YouTubers do it. I find talking to a camera awkward. I don't know what to say. I like to make jokes with people, and I don't feel like I can make jokes to a camera. I think I'd have to get like a laugh track in the background, and that would also just be sad. So, alright. Then again, I'm going to take my eraser, erase away some of these lines that I got out of. Alright, now we are ready to add some highlights. Because our sun is coming this way, this side of our box is going to be just a little bit lighter than over on the other side. So I'm just very barely erasing away part of this and making it slightly darker as it goes. You can barely even tell the difference. Now, since I did that, I feel like I can see this line a little bit more clearly. You never want to see any like really clear lines. Remember, that's what makes our objects look flat. So I'm going to take an eraser. I'm going to erase that line just a little bit more, so that way I can't see it. There we go. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is there is actually going to be a highlight right here where these two sides meet. So I'm going to use my eraser, carefully erase that away. And there's going to be one over on this side as well. Gonna blend that because you don't want any spots where, except for obviously like here versus here, but you really don't want too many spots where it just goes from directly being light to dark. You want most of your stuff to be a nice smooth transition. All right, last thing we need to do, well, we have two more things to do actually. First, we have something called reflective light. Reflected light bounces off like the table or the surface that your object is on and comes back up and hits the object. So for our reflected light, we are going to erase away a little bit right here. I'm going to start it off like this, and then I'm going to take my tortillon to kind of blend it again. So that way it's a nice smooth transition. Now notice I didn't make it like super white. It's still pretty light. And then here, this one, it's gonna go like this. Kind of like at an arc. And again, take the tortillon. A lot of drawing realistically is just working on blending. It's a lot of going back and forth. All right, last thing for real this time is we're going to add something called a cast shadow. So the cast shadow is the shadow that the object gives off. So when you're outside and you see your shadow next to you on the ground, that is a cast shadow. Cast shadows are obviously dark. So next to your object, it's actually going to be the darkest. And that's where the lines are going to be the most sharp. As you go further away, it'll get a little bit lighter and the lines will kind of get kind of blurry on the side. Alrighty. And again, taking your tortillon or whatever you're using to blend with, and blend it all out. I'm not going to blend mine perfectly because I want to move on to my sphere now, but that gives you an idea of how to draw a realistic cube. Alrighty, making sure I didn't move my paper too much. You can still see it. Next thing we're going to do, I'm just going to flip my paper upside down just to make it easier. Next thing we're going to do is a sphere. A sphere is a three-dimensional circle. This one, unlike the cube, there's not a lot of like drawing. A lot of this is just shading. So we're going to start off with our lightest pencil. So I'm going to use this 2H pencil here. Now, people really struggle to draw circles. When you draw a circle, move your paper. Don't just try to keep your paper still. Do lots of little like strokes like I'm doing. Don't try to do it in just like one swift go. If you do it in one swift go, it's probably going to look a little bit wonky. All right, so there's a circle. Now, if I try to just go really fast, it looks a little bit funky. All right, that's why you do little dashes. Move your paper, makes it a million times easier. All right, this time I'm gonna have my light come in from over here. So I'm gonna put a little circle right here. This is going to be the highlight of my sphere. I'm going to actually keep it completely white. I'm not going to color inside of it. So starting off just using my 2H, I'm going to start going in circles around it. And I'm starting to press down a little bit harder as I move away. Alright, then I'm going to switch over to my 2B. I'm going to pick up there. And I'm actually going to draw a very light circle like this. Now notice that this comes all the way back up here. And this one goes all the way in there. This is where I want my 2B to be the darkest. I don't want it to be so dark like up here. I don't want it to look like my 5B. This is where I want my 2B to be the darkest. So out here, I'm gonna start shading. Again, make sure that you're using your pencil on the side. It makes it a lot easier to blend it later. Most people tell you to make sure that you always start lighter and work darker. And for the most part, I agree. However, for me, I just find it like going darker and lighter in a circle, it just makes it easier. But most of the time people would want you to work from here out. And I try to tell people to do that. But like I said, for me personally, I just think it's easier to go dark to light. But the reason why most people say make sure you always go light to dark is because it's a lot easier to erase lighter things or make them darker than it is to try to erase something dark and make it lighter. If I can figure out how to speed up certain parts of my video, I'll probably speed this part up. If you have to watch this whole thing though, I do apologize. I failed at figuring it out. In my defense, I am not going to like waste my life trying to figure out how to edit the video to make it go faster. If I can just find something really quick and easy, I'll do it, but I don't have time to sit around and just figure that out right now. Alright, so see, now I'm going back in. I am making it a little bit darker. Alright, now I'm going to switch over to my 5B. And it's going to be the darkest part. I am going to draw it kind of, I'm going to try to like harden up my outer line here now. Oops. There's somebody outside with a very loud truck. Shh, bacon. Alright. So again, now this outer part is our darkest part. Bacon. I do apologize. My dogs are very excited by trucks. Alrighty. So again, I'm kind of going in little circles, 12 ovals. Coming up here. Now, where this meets right here, they should be about the same shade. I don't want you drawing like circles and having it like very obvious. This was the lightest pencil, this was the next pencil, then this part. It needs to be close to that range. I think breaking it down makes it easier rather than just trying to like look at this whole thing and be like, all right, I have to go from completely white to almost completely black. I think that's kind of overwhelming. So that's why I break it down like, here's a circle of the light, then we're going to draw this other circle for this pencil and whatever. Alrighty, now it's time to blend. Now, when I blend, I'm going in little circles around. And I'm also trying not to press down too hard in this lighter part. I must have used this Tortillion to blend a lot of dark things because it has a lot of graphite on it right now. It's making some of my stuff too dark. Alright, as I move out, I am starting to press down a little bit harder. Really trying to get that blended nicely. Blending is also a thing that's very important whenever you are making art, at least if you're trying to make things look realistic. Working on your blending skills and your shading skills, that is what you really want to focus on. Because if you can't blend well and make nice smooth transitions, it'll affect your work, how realistic it looks. I'm going to go back into my highlight, erase it away. Now, right now, there's a very obvious, like, here's my highlight, here's the rest. So I'm going to take my eraser. I'm very lightly going to start going in circles now. And as I get further away, I'm picking up my eraser even more. I can still see that line. Oops. This eraser isn't the best eraser, but again, I'm going to switch back to my tortillon. Going in little circles. Making that a nice smooth transition. All right. Now, right here, I don't like how obvious that line is. I went up a little bit too much with it. I'm going to try to erase it away, but it is one of the darker pencils, so I may have messed that up a little bit. And back up. I'm going to take my 2H. Going to harden up some of these lines a little bit. I'm going to erase away some of this extra gunk. So spheres are definitely probably the hardest thing because it's just a lot of blending, a lot of going back and forth and trying to make sure that you have this nice smooth transition. All right, now for the cast shadow. Because our sun is coming from this direction, our cast shadow will be down here. Now, technically, a sphere, it's only touching the surface at one small point. So I'm going to have mine touching like right here. And I'm going to draw my cast shadow like this. Now obviously, because my paper is bent and because I have all that stuff, I can't draw it out as much as it needs to be. Also, depending on where the sun really is would affect how your cast shadow looks. Think about it if you have a ball sitting on a basketball court outside and it's in the evening time. That shadow, it's going to look really long. It's going to look like a long skinny oval. If you did it during the middle of the day, you might not even really see the cast shadow when the sun's right up above us. Certain times of the day, it probably would make a pretty perfect circle. So it really just depends. All right, and again, use your tortillon. Blend that stuff out. Gonna actually end up merging with my cube shadow. And there you have it. That's how you do a sphere. So if you are really interested in learning how to draw realistically, I strongly suggest practicing drawing these two things. Next time, if people ask if there was enough interest in this, I will also do a cylinder and a cone for you guys. So if you have any questions, as always, make sure that you email me. Send me any pictures of your art that you're doing, especially if you do this. I really want to see how you guys did at this practice, and let me know what you want to do next time. Thanks, guys.